Hello everyone and welcome to the third day of this Session 6 or Forum 2 of Digital DNA. Today we're going to start working with Tableau. Ooh, I can hear the cheering from over here. So we're going to leave the Excel behind. But prior to start working with Tableau, I'm going to start giving you a quick lesson on the Spanish political situation right now. So you can, when you hear the name of the parties, you can understand which is who and why I'm doing the grouping that we are going to do later. So here, in the Spanish political arena, we have four main parties. The Popular Party, which is the one that is more on the right side of the government, Citizens, the Socialist Party, and Unidos Podemos, which is the one that is more on the left. In Spain, the party that won the election on 2016 was the Popular Party. However, the Socialist Party presented a motion of censure in June this year, and they won it for the first time in history in Spain. So now they are the one that have the government. The problem is that it's an interim government because they haven't been elected, and it's not very difficult to consider that it's going to last until 2020 when there are the next election in Spain. Then we have a lot of regional parties that belongs to Catalonia, Canary Island, Basque Country, Valencia, etc., that are present in our government. And then we have other national parties like Vox, PACMA, which is the Animalist Party, and the Green ones. What we are going to analyze is these four main parties. We are going to group the regional party in a whole block because they are very difficult, and we are going to analyze the data at a Spanish level. And if we are going to do some regional analysis, we are going to focus only on the four main parties, because the other parties are going to be very difficult to analyze. The thing is that some of the regional parties, like these three, really belongs to Unidos Podemos. So we are going to do another grouping with these four ones here. Then we'll study the three other main parties, then the regional as a one block, and then the other like in another group. So now that we know this, and you can turn back here to understand why we are doing the grouping in the video, let's go to Tableau and start doing the analysis. Here in Tableau, we're going to start doing the analysis on our Excel file. Okay, so I'm going to load our Excel, which has all the columns translated already. So if you want to use the Excel for this exercise, you have to translate all the columns or take the Excel that I'm going to load in the materials folder. Okay, it doesn't make sense that you use the VLOOKUP for all the columns. I want you to practice as you did with exercise 1 and exercise 2, because it's very important, and we're going to use the VLOOKUP for the final exam and for the group exam. But it's okay if you take this Excel solve and you don't have to do all the VLOOKUP for all the columns and get crazy with the VLOOKUPs. Okay, it's taking a little bit longer because the heavier the Excel, the longest it takes. So now we have here, all the sheets in the Excel. We're going to drag the dataset translator here. And as you remember, the format is the format for working in Excel. It's not the format which is prepared to working in Tableau. So we are going to have to use the data interpreter for sure, because we are going to have to see, you don't have columns, names, etc. So we have to use the data interpreter, which might take longer than the other day, because when you use the data interpreter, Tableau creates a table. I mean, it cleans up the data, it assigns titles, it assigns some measures and automatic measures like the number of records. And as you remember from the other day, it distinguishes between dimensions and measures. So he has to read the data and understand what is what in the table. So if you are going to use very heavy databases, make sure that you have them cleaned up so you don't have to use the data interpreter because it might take a long time, or that you just have them in another format which is more like more friendly with Tableau, like SQL or Access or whatever. Because as you can see, it can take like up to a minute or two in this case to clean up the data. So we have just finished with our data interpreter. For me, it took 2 minutes. And we finally got to the table where you can see all the columns properly places of the column name and information here. So now let's go to a new sheet, and we are going to start with our first visualization. As the other day, I like to start with a map. You can see here that in this case we have a lot of dimensions and less measures than the other day. And in this case we have a very important measure that is automatically created by Tableau, which is the number of records. This is a calculated field created by Tableau, which is similar to our count in the pivot table. So we're going to use this as the count of every answer. So now for the map, the regional field that we have in the data set is the autonomous community, which is like the state here in Spain. So as the other day, we're going to change the type to to state province, okay? And we're going to use, you see that every time that we create a geographic field, latitude and longitude automatically generate also. And we are going to take the autonomous community and to place it here. And then what we see here is we have 19 unknown values. That means that Tableau is not able to recognize the region or the state or the geographical region that we are referring to. So we have to click in here in unknown, click, then we have this, and we have to edit the location. Okay? We want to edit the locations. We click here. We select that the country is Spain. Spain. Okay? And then we have this. We have some, if you see, we have some matches. Once we tell Tableau that the region is Spain, we have some matches. We have now 10 issues only, not 19. Okay, so we got this, we got that, Andalusia, Aragon. So we have to match this one. And Tableau give us a drop down with information. So Asturias is here. Balear Island is a Balearic Island. Canarias is the Canary Islands. It's very easy because it's like the same name, but Tableau is sometimes very specific with the writing. So in this case, the most difficult one is that Comunitat Valenciana is Valenciana. So this is like the most difficult. And you see, Tableau has a very specific way of writing everything. So if you don't place the data like Tableau wanted, it's not going to recognize it. But the thing is that he has this message where you can click and then it provides you with the options. Oh, sorry, I wrong this one. This is Melilla. This is Murcia. This is Navarra. And this is La Rioja. So now we don't have any unknowns. We can click OK. And then if we try, you see, we have, Tableau has automatically recognized all the locations. You remember we prefer this kind of map. So we have here. And as the other day, we're going to click in the number of records and place it into color, because with this, we now have how many people has answered the survey from each region. So we can see that Andalusia is the one with most respondents, and then we have Catalonia and Madrid. So that's very easy. If you want to do further ahead a filter on region, you can see which is the one that is going to give you like more results. Because doing an analysis in La Rioja with only 20 people answering the question is going to give you very biased results. So now we have the map, and as always, let's place the name. Here, it's called map. Okay, so now we have the map. Let's now go into a more difficult and deeper visualization, because we want to fully understand the results. We have done some analysis in the pivot table, but we want to get more insights. So let's do a graph with some more difficult fields. A field that is very interesting here is the intention to vote in supposed general elections. So we can bring it here, and we can bring the number of records here. So we can now have by party, which is the total people that has said that is going to vote this party. This is a lot of records. It happened with if you remember the PowerPoint before, we're going to group some of the party, because it's very difficult to do an analysis with so many records here, with so many different parties. So we're going to group them and do the analysis on the thing that we want to focus on. So how do we do this in Tableau? Tableau allows us to create groups of variables, which is very interesting when you have very different categories and you want to group them in one only. So here in the intention to vote, which is here, we're going to click here and click in create group. Okay? So what we do is we are going to group, we are going to select some of the parties, in this case the one that are for the region. Okay. These ones. You can have the PowerPoint for consultation, but we are going to have these ones. Okay? And then we're going to group them. And only click group. And then we have a group here. Then we're going to create the group for Unidos Podemos. Remember, we are going to have this one. And then Unidos Podemos all together. We're going to group these ones. And then we're going to group the small national parties, like this one. It's okay. We're going to then click group. Okay, and then I will group. I will leave the don't know apart, because I want to do an analysis on them. And then I will group all the categories. Not answer, null vote, white vote, and will not vote. I'm going to group them because I'm going to exclude them for the analysis, because I think that they are very mixed up and probably conclusions are going to be very difficult to get from this group. So I'm going to group them. So now, if I click apply, and then you see it has appeared a new dimension, which is the intention to vote but group. I click OK, and in this case I remove this one from the shelf and I take the grouping one. And then you can see we have a very, very, very different visualization, because it's much more easy to get information here with only 7 categories than before. Okay? Now the thing is that we're going to learn another feature of Tableau, because in this case it had ranked them in alphabetical order, but I don't want them like that. I want them to be ranked in the correct order, in the order of importance, because I want to see them from right to left, to which is more relevant, to the one that is less relevant, because it's going to be easier for me to understand the tables. So I go here to the group, remember, to the group 1, okay? I go here and in default properties, click in sort. Okay, and I sort them manually. It's like we did in the pivot table, it's the same. We're going to click them manually, sort them manually. In this case, it's less easy to sort. We can do it manually. You can drag them up. So we're going to use the Socialist Party first, then the Popular Party, then Ciudadanos, then the Alliance of Unidos Podemos, then the Regional, then the other party, then don't know, and then the category that I don't want to see. And then click in Apply, and you see that the visualization has already changed. And click in OK. I'm going to do this in entire view. Okay, so that's perfect. I have them now ranked properly. So now let's introduce another axis of analysis, which is the sex of the person interviewed. If we introduce it here in column, we can see that we have male, female, male, female, and we can analyze whether the pattern is different between male and female. But this is a very simple analysis. We only can see if a sex has voted or has the intention to vote a party more than the other. Let's introduce some information like socioeconomical information, like for example, the marital status of the person. You can click here in marital status and move it to color. And you get the bars, okay? I have a label here. If you want to see the labels, you have to show here, show mark labels. So you will get all the labels here, okay? For me, the visualization is fine, but you have to keep reading all the labels to see which has both most what, because it is stuck. I mean, it is one bar above the other. So it doesn't allow you to see totals by themselves. So I would prefer a different visualization like this one. But you have to be careful with this, because when you change from a visualization which is quite complex like this one, and you change the type of visualization, Tableau automatically understands which is what you want to show. So first of all, let's simplify this version, this visualization, and then let's move to change the type, okay? Because let me show you. I'm going to duplicate this so you can see what happens when I change the type. If I duplicate, this is a duplicate. If I change the type of the visualization like this, change, you see, Tableau has understood that my first concern is to know the marital status. So it has assigned color based on base female and the shapes based on the intention to vote. This is difficult to read. So you can change the visualization from here, but let's do it from scratch so it's going to be clearer. Okay, so let's remove the marital status. Let's remove the sex. Okay, and let's change the type of visualization. You see, this is very simple. It has understood again that the intention to vote is the color. I don't want them as column. I want them as the column. So I bring it here. You see, it starts to show me. Then I move the sex again here as a column. Okay, So I have a very similar visualization than before, but instead of bar, I have these circles. And then I move the marital status to the color. So I have, and I'm going to remove this bar, this label, mark label, automatic, here. So I have this different visualization where I have a color for each marital status, and I can start seeing things. The things here is that I can, as before, I can sort this, but what I can see here is that in most cases, every time, the one that is in the top, for all the parties, here you can see, except from this case, is the married. What does this mean? Does this mean that the married people is voting more? If we want to know what happens, we have to understand the distribution of the variable we're going to study. So let's bring here another worksheet. Let's bring the marital status here, 2 columns. And let's bring the number of records here, 2 rows. As you can see, the married people has been the group with a very different ratio answer than the other groups. And if I show a visualization like this, you will be able to see, because this shows us the total area and the total, let me hide this, this shows us the area. You can see that almost most of the half of the people that answered are married. So what happens here is that this variable is not useful to make an analysis upon it, because it is already very biased, because the analysis is going to give you back that the married people have always the one with more intention to vote, etc., in all the parties, because the study is biased because of this. So this is a sample of what variables we can use for our studies and what we cannot use. Let's change this to another variable which is very interesting, which is the socioeconomic status. Okay? If I choose the socioeconomic status and change it for marital status, okay? I change this and I put it in here. You see, you can bring it to label, okay? Or you can just put it upon the other variable. And we have this. If you see this seems like this were more distributed. We have one large group, 2 that are large also, and another 2 that are not that large, but has a very good representation. If I show it in bars, like this, and I turn it around, you see this button here, swap columns and tables and rows, allow you to change this graph, into this one, because it changed, you see, it changed what it is in column and what is in rows. Okay, and what we can see here is that it seems like we have a population with a more evenly distribution. So let's go to a visualization and change, instead of using marital status, let's use socioeconomic status, here in color again. So it seems that we have differences now. If you see, this has changed. This has changed because I have sorted this data previously, okay? If you remember, you have to go here, and in default properties, you have to sort it, okay? I have manually sorted to these values. And I have chosen a different palette, because the palette from before, this one, okay, we don't see it. The palette from before, it's the automatic palette for Tableau. Tableau shows you a palette with a lot of gray, greens, yellows, red, blues. The thing that when you mix yellow and green and red, the colorblind people cannot see the visualization. And you have to make sure that your visualization is available to everyone to read it. So Tableau has a method for that. You see here, you go to edit color. You see this is the automatic Tableau wallet. You see here, probably now that you are following me, can have these colors, okay? You have these colors, okay? These are the ones that are very difficult because these, probably a colorblind person cannot see them. So how do we change it? We change it here in color, edit colors, and we choose the colorblind palette. We apply it, we assign the palette, you have to assign the palette, and we apply it. And click OK. And now this is a graph that can be read by anyone. And from this graph, we have information. It's not as before. We have changes. We don't always have the same first at the beginning. In this case, for example, for the Socialist Party, we have that qualified workers are winning because even in male or female, and it makes sense, it's a Socialist Party. But when we go to the more conservative one, we have a difference. For females, we have new middle classes, and for males, we have qualified workers. So now let's call our visualization intention sex SOC status. Okay, so we have the name. Let's remove this one here because we don't want it there. Delete. And then let's call this SOC status distribution. I'm going to save my workbook because I see that it's now called book 3 and I haven't saved it yet. So for doing that, you know now how to do it, but let's call it like save, file, save. We're going to call it you see Tableau let you, this is like the default folder for Tableau. You can choose what you want to save it. Okay, I prefer to save it directly in the forum in my folder and call it okay. You can choose whatever name you want to, and then you see we have here the distributions for the socioeconomic status, and there are other views for distribution. Actually, this is created like this because this is a dimension, not a measure. If we want to do the distribution of the age, you see the age is like a more continuous variable. We want to see how the age of the people that has been interviewed distribute to see if we have more elderly people or more young people, etc. So we can use this, but there is a type of visualization that is called histogram. Histogram, as it says here, creates a bin field. It only can be used with one measure. So it has to be one measure. And not all measures are available. It has to be a numerical one. So when we create this graph, it's processing. When we create this graph, we got what we call real distribution, an histogram. An histogram is a kind of visualization that is very used in statistical purposes, and it creates bins. Like this bin is for people for 15 to 20, and it counts the repetitions of this bin. I mean, how many people in their view are between 15 and 20 years. And it gives you the shape of the distribution. This is what we call a normal distribution, a Gaussian distribution. You probably have seen this in other subjects. This is like the normal one. It's also called a normal distribution, and it also normally has like the shape of a bell. You know, one higher one middle, one higher here in the middle, and then shapes like go downwards. Here we have a small difference here with the 20 to 25, but it overall has a normal distribution. This distribution is very useful when you can see the shape and you want to see whether it's more biased to one kind of people or to other. And you can use this to filter bins in order to filter what you want to see in a dashboard. That is why it's very useful. So we are going to call this H histogram. The problem is that you can only use this with measures and with the specific kind of measure that are numerical and that can be stored in bins and counted. And for finishing with today's video, we're going to do our last visualization. We have been talking about the intention to vote, but I would like to do something with what is the difference between the intention to vote now and what I vote in the last elections. Because I have told you about the motion of censure, the different change in the government. So I think it's very interesting to see is what has happened in the last 2 years has really take a toll on the government, on the current government, or on the past party that has the government. So in this case, we're going to use a visualization, a type of visualization that we used last week. So we're going to use the intention of vote, and I'm going to use the voting reminder. As you can see, the voting reminder, if I go to describe, I can see what are the values of the voting reminder. If I click in load, I have here all the values. As you can see, they are very similar to the one in intention to vote. So we have to do the same thing. We have to group them and sort them. So let's do it. I'm going to create the group with the nationalist parties. We're going to create the group for the Unidos Podemos. Here, group. And I don't have here, I don't know. I have don't remember all of this. So I'm going to group them all in a single category because I don't want the indecisive votes. So I want to group all of them together. Okay? So I group them, apply, and click OK. And I have my new field. I'm going to sort it because using it in the visualization, and I'm going to sort them based on what I have here. So I'm going to sort them manually. So first is the Socialist Party, then the Conservative Party, then Citizen Party, then the Podemos Party, then the Regional Party, and then the other. Okay, so I have this here. I have the number of records, and I want this in colors. Remember, I have this kind of visualization, but I'm going to change it to this. So this is intention, voting reminder, and then, no, this is, again, you see, it has changed it again. So this is intention to vote, and then the voting reminder goes to the color. Okay, and then I'm going to fit the view. And change again the palette for the voting reminder. So again, use the color blind and assign palette. I can apply so I can see the changes and click OK. So this is a very important visualization. I'm going to change this. If you remember, I'm going to change it. I'm going to edit and use, instead of quartile that are very difficult to understand because this is like advanced statistical, I'm going to use the line. Click OK. So I have here the average number of votes for this kind of party, and I can see here how different. This is the intention to vote, and this is the voting reminder. So people that intend to vote to the Socialist Party, they remind that they vote again for the Socialist Party, and they are far above the average. So this seems that people are not changing their vote, but it not happen the same to all the other parties, or at least not like with the Socialist Party. So I will call this visualization intention. Reminder. And I will let to you to analyze this question. But now that we have all the visualization in place for today, let's go to today's question. Please select one of the visualizations we have done and explain the behavior of the data. You can choose either one, the intention to vote versus sex versus the socioeconomic status, or the last one that we have made, the intention to vote versus the remainder of vote in 2016 elections. Good luck!